With the swing lower in Bitcoin Cash, it is looking more and more likely that we're going to get that lower low after all, but that is not a reason to fret because we are looking to set up quite a buying opportunity. If you watch my last update in Bitcoin Cash, we've got quite a long-term pattern in front of us, but we may have some short-term pain before we get there. But behind every cloud, there's a silver lining. So, of course, we're going to start off with our short-term chart here. This is the 30-minute linear chart for Bitcoin Cash, and nothing has changed besides the fact that we have pulled back a little bit. We have our red pattern as basically the primary, and that would call for a lower low as we were looking at earlier. And, well, it's looking pretty convincing so far. We have an A, B, and a C wave up. The proportions look pretty standard, and, well, we may already have a 1, 2, 3 in place. We may be in the middle of a third wave of a 5 impulse down. Not totally sure exactly where we are. We are actually seeing 5 down in a lot of other cryptocurrencies, even though it's not as obvious and clear in Bitcoin Cash itself. Now, if this is just a 3-wave pattern down in ADC, I would expect this to go a little bit lower before bouncing up. And if that happens, we could get that elusive 5th wave up to finish a leading diagonal. However, at this point in time, it's not looking very likely that would be a green pattern. That would have this pullback here being the 4th wave with a 5th wave left to go. The only concern there is that, well, we could actually count this entire thing as a corrective wave up, even in that case. So we have an A, B, C up, and that entire structure could be an A wave up. This could be a B wave down. And then the higher we go, the more likely it is that's just a larger A, B, C correction up. So either way, I'm leaning towards red. A lower low, it just looks like the pattern would be more complete with that being the case. Now, shifting to the big picture chart, this is what we have here. We haven't changed too much. And of course, this chart is available in the description below. So feel free to check that out so that you can follow along. But we have our red pattern as primary, and it actually does look like we have 5 waves down from our top in, well, September 2021 in the case of Bitcoin Cash. Many cryptos had a higher high in December, actually November, before we had our big spike down on December 3rd. So Bitcoin Cash is a little bit different. Maybe it's moving a bit faster, but regardless, it makes this thing count a little bit more nicely. And that is reflected by the fact that I have these trend channel lines in here. It looks very much like that ending diagonal shape that we'd like to see. And after ending diagonals, you typically have a very sharp reversal. And, well, it looked like we were getting that initially, although this latest pullback has kind of snuffed out the flames on that potential. But again, not too much to worry about. Big picture because, well, we have that blue box below us, blue, green, whatever color that is. That would potentially be the ideal retracement point, especially that because the 2.0 extension of what I'm calling the 1-2 falls down there. Even though it looks like we have a complete structure already, the fact that we have this big zigzag correction up tells us that it would look a lot better with a slightly lower low. And for Bitcoin Cash, we're sitting at about $292 or so. That would put us around 250 would be the top of that blue box. We could go down lower all the way down to 180 or maybe lower than that. There is Fibonacci confluence at 186, and that is based on the A equals C equivalence, which means that this A wave down from our May 2021 high, if that equals the C wave down in length, that would put us at about 186. That's a very common equivalence you see in corrective waves in Elliott wave theory. So with that being said, red is primary, green is just hanging on by a thread. We'd have to break 260.02 to well, to technically break the green pattern, which says that our low that we hit on January 24th was the actual low. And, well, I just went over the fact that there's not too much downside left if we do break that. If we do end up having a reversal either right away or we fall in the box first, our subwave 1 does target into this box. As you see here, it's just based on a basic 0.32 to 0.618 extension of this larger pattern. And why that is not perfectly accurate, I'll explain in just a second, but that would have us going relatively quickly into the 600s range. This is 648 to the bottom of our blue box and upwards of 1151 plus. So I wouldn't expect us to break our all-time high right away on the subwave 3, or I'm sorry, the subwave 1, but that'll be a pretty good return from where we are right now. That'd be at least a 3x plus return from where we are. So that is the excitement in the short term if you can buy the dip. And I am getting ready to, well, I have my buying plans ready to go. So as I've been mentioning in all my other videos, now is the time to start thinking about buying. It's time to be greedy when others are fearful. And while Bitcoin Cash has incredible upward potential, which I'm going to go over momentarily, you want to buy a lot of different cryptos, a lot of different altcoins, because they are all high risk, high reward. And the best way to mitigate your risk without giving up your returns is to buy a bunch of different cryptos. So buy 7 or 8. I will have some videos coming out demonstrating or actually laying out the risk and reward potentials between the various different cryptos that I've analyzed. So that will help you guys decide on where you want to put your money to work for the best returns. So as for those upward targets, that is what I'm going to focus on now here. So this is the long-term logarithmic chart daily view. And Bitcoin Cash has a relatively neat pattern, even though it's not the most bullish setup. And the reason for that is that from our bottom in December 2018, we have that is clearly the low. We didn't have a double bottom like we do in Bitcoin and most of the cryptos, in which you had that low, and then you had another either lower low or a almost low, a low that was almost as low as that low. When you have a double bottom, it's very vague. It can be difficult to tell if you have a bullish setup or if it's just the end of the previous corrective wave. Regardless, we don't have that concern in Bitcoin Cash. This is clearly some kind of setup. It's a 1-2. It looks to me like a ABC correction down. That is the everything crash in March of 2020. And we had this sharp rally that went all the way up to, what, 1636, something like that. And we've had a very deep connection. correction, deep correction. This is a leading diagonal setup, and in diagonals, you do have your 5 waves up. So you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Difference being that each subwave within the diagonal will take a 3-wave form. So typically an ABC zigzag, which is exactly what we're seeing here. This third wave could easily be interpreted as a 3-wave zigzag. And then this correction since the May 2021 top also looks like an ABC down. I've actually, I had this label as a WXY. I think it was a double zigzag, but it's looking like it will actually be a proper ABC zigzag down. With that being said, that means we would have one more rally to go, possibly a blow up. That would be our 5th wave, which I have drawn in magenta pink right here. And what makes these diagonal setups a little bit less confident than an impulsive setup is that this thing could easily be interpreted as an A, B, and a C. And if that's the case, this whole thing is a fake out B wave bounce, and we'd have a big crash coming our way. That is actually the setup I'm seeing in some other cryptos. I believe Ripple is the primary one where I see something like this happening. There's the potential for that in a couple of other cryptos as well. So it would be a concern in a vacuum. However, because only a few cryptos have that setup, I lean bullish in my bias, and I do interpret this as being most likely an ending diagonal 5th. The ideal extension would fall somewhere within this blue box, and typically your diagonals would, well, this blue box will actually extend a little bit higher. You would typically find yourself extending between the 1.618 and the 1.764 extensions of your 1-2 setup. That would put us well over $3,000. So I put that blue box up to 3,200 as a conservative target, but please beware that it could go higher. That would be some incredible returns. I'm actually going to project that out, get the calculation of the returns. If we got up to that minimum target, that'd be almost an 11x return from where we are. And that is assuming we don't go any lower, even though I do think we'll go a bit lower before we get to that point. So very exciting buying opportunity. Big picture, again, this is presumably some kind of a large wave 1 followed by a leading diagonal. The only question here is that we don't have as much history for Bitcoin Cash, so this is purely a hypothetical extension setup, but that 0.618 will be a key resistance right around $4,100. So if we're going to have some ridiculous upside targets beyond that, we're going to need to see a little bit more, well, we have to go through some of those resistances up top. There is the small possibility that this is actually a 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, so maybe a nested setup, maybe a double nested, triple nested setup. We're seeing something like that in, I believe, EOS, Stellar Lumens, possibly Polkadot, Chainlink. Not seeing that here in Bitcoin Cash, but again, doesn't mean we can't have great returns. So, like I said, stay tuned, subscribe so you don't miss any updates, because this is going to be a very interesting week. We've already gotten quite a pullback in equities. The futures markets are showing quite a bit of carnage there. And we've had, again, pretty good pullback over the past day or two during this holiday weekend, President's Day holiday weekend. I expect to see some pretty chaotic action in the coming trading days. So if you enjoy my video, don't forget to give me a like. And until next time, thank you for watching and happy trading.